Okay, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see so many here on this rainy morning. I'm Gemma. I'm one of the librarians at Ourimbah campus, and today we are going to be talking about the basics of EndNote and how it all sort of works. All right, so we'll get started. So what I want to do first of all is just acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands within our footprint areas at the University of Newcastle. So the Awabakal, Darkinjung, Biripi, Worimi, Woronurua and Eora nations. We also pay respect to the wisdom of elders past, present and emerging. And I'd like to extend this acknowledgement and pay my respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people here today. So just before we get started, we might just have a quick poll to get an idea of what you guys already know about EndNote and if any of you actually have very much background with this software. So if you could just quickly answer some questions, that would be really useful to us. Thank you. Yep. Okay, lovely. So what we are going to do now, I might just introduce as well our moderator, Zoe. So she's going to be just keeping an eye on the chat and just making sure that if you have any questions, she takes note of them and she'll let me know at the end so that we can kind of deal with them all together once we've gone through the sort of main body of the presentation. So what we'll do now, I'll just move on to the next part. So today we are going to be creating an EndNote library. We're going to be talking about how to actually add records to your library, how to manage those once you get them in, and then how to actually use the cite while you write function with Microsoft Word when you're writing your paper. So EndNote is a citation management software for anyone who's not familiar. It enables you to actually store your citations and keep track of all of the references that you've found while you're doing your research. It helps you to actually search in library catalogues and open access databases to find references that you might want to use. And it, as I mentioned before, it links to cite while you write. And in addition to all of that, you can actually share your EndNote library too with other people if you are collaborating on projects, which can be quite useful. What we might do now is I'll just go to my EndNote program and we'll get started. So EndNote, okay. So at the moment, it looks pretty blank because I've downloaded EndNote and now that I've downloaded it, what I need to do first of all is create a library. So if we go to File and then we go New, that enables you to create a library. Now you need to create it somewhere that's on your computer because if you save it to something like a cloud server, that can corrupt the data in your library. So what I'm going to do, I've created a special folder on my desktop for the EndNote demonstration. So I'm going to put it in there. The default of the name is going to be My EndNote Library. You can name it whatever you like, but I'm just going to call it Practice. And I'm going to save that there in that folder. Now, when you actually create your library, that's going to create two sort of files, and they need to be kept together. So if I go into my file explorer and we have a look at that folder, EndNote demonstration, you can see that we've got the library folder here called practice, and we've also got practice.data. And it's really important to keep those files together, because if they get separated, again, your library will corrupt. So that's why it's a good sort of idea to save them both together in a folder somewhere and make sure that's, again, on the hard drive of your computer so that nothing goes wrong. If you end up copying your library to a USB to take it with you to another device or something like that, you need to make sure that you have that practice.data folder and as well as the EndNote library file as well together for that to work properly.
Gemma, we're not able to see the two files at the moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It just might be on a different screen.
Okay, no worries. Sorry about that. It's yeah, challenging on a laptop sometimes when you're trying to share multiple things.
Yes.
Okay, yes, if I share that now, you should be able to see. So that is my file explorer, and you can see there the EndNote demo folder there, and again, the practice.data and the practice EndNote library file that you need to keep both of those together. Thanks, Zoe.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving back to our actual EndNote program itself, what we will do, there we go. All right, so now that I've created a library, you can see that it's actually given me a window to work in within EndNote itself. So we've got a few different panels here. We've got over on the left-hand side, your library. So you can see the little folder symbol up the top. So we're in local library mode. If we go into online search mode, that's a temporary library that lets you search open access databases as well as library catalogues, such as the University of Newcastle Library Catalogue. And if you just click on more, it will show you a list of different library catalogues that you can add to your online search mode. You may find that you can't find the specific one that you're after. And if that happens, you just need to add a connection file for that catalogue. The other mode that we have is the integrated library and online search mode. And that can be fantastic if you are looking for a specific title. But if you are searching for multiple references, use the integrated search mode with care, because it's going to bring back all of the references that you find in that search. It doesn't actually let you select them individually before they get imported into your library. So if you do a broad search, which has got hundreds of results, it's going to end up importing them all into your library. So yeah, that's why we say that that kind of integrated mode is probably best for searching for a specific title. So online search mode is fantastic. And then if we go back to our local library mode, that's where you can kind of look at your citations that you've got in your library, manage them, edit them, all that kind of stuff. So there's a number of ways that you can actually add citations to your EndNote library. So you can do that manually. You can do it in online search mode, as I've mentioned. You can do it from PDF files. And you can do it from databases as well. If you actually go to the library catalogue or one of the databases that we subscribe to, you can add them in from those. So I'll go through and explain how to do some of those different steps.
Gemma, sorry to interrupt. We've
Yeah.
just got one of our attendees with their hand up.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a question, Sarah? Are the attendees able to unmute themselves or?
That's a good question.
No, they're not. Any questions need to go through the chat.
Are you able just to type it in, Sarah? That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we might move on until we get Sarah's question. So if you would like to add references manually to your library, there's a little symbol up the top, which is like a page with a little plus symbol in the bottom right-hand corner. If you click on that new reference, that's going to bring up a new window that will let you select the reference type that you're trying to add. And it will also let you fill out the details for that citation in this sort of format. So it's got lots of fields in it, more than you would actually need to, ensure that your reference gets formatted correctly when you're using Cite while you write in Word. And that's one of the reasons why it's really important to know your referencing style very thoroughly, so you know what fields you actually need to use for a correct reference. So, for example, with something like a journal article, you'd want to be filling in the author, you'd want to be filling in the publication year, the title of the article, the title of the journal itself, the volume, the issue number, the page range. And if you scroll down a little bit further, things like the DOI, so the digital object identifier, so that permanent link, if there is one, is really important for people to be able to find that source again. And then you can go in and add things like notes if you would like. So that's just kind of personal notes to yourself about the source, which won't be added to your citation. So that's the adding citations manually. If you add in some information and you want to save it, if you just close it using the small cross up in the top right hand corner, not the large one that will close down the entire EndNote program, but just the small cross, then that will close it. And if I had actually entered any information in there, it would have let me save it. So what I'm going to do now is go into the online search mode, and I'm going to search University of Newcastle catalogue.
Gemma, sorry to interrupt. Sarah
Yep.
has put her question in there. Is it okay if I ask that now?
Sure, that's okay.
So she says, I have APA 6 only, and also the world sign does not have UON in my online search, and I'm not sure how to add it.
That's okay. Well, that's just a case of having to add in your referencing style. And you also need to add in that connection for your online library too. If we just, I'll just share the EndNote guide for a moment, and I'll show you where to find the instructions for that, and we'll go through that. So if we go through and we have a look at the FAQs, they've got a link to the Clarivate support site. And if you are looking to add in a connection file, For a database or a library catalogue which doesn't actually appear, you just search for connection files, and it takes you to the link to the EndNote website, where you can actually search for the file of the catalogue that you're looking for. So we can search by keyword, and I'm just going to search for University of Newcastle. And you can see there, it's got connection files for 2 different catalogues. So there's the University of Newcastle, Australia, which is ours, and also the one for Newcastle University in the UK. So you want to make sure that you don't download the correct connection file for that. So if you download that, then you're actually able to add that to EndNote. So if we go back to our EndNote program, okay. If you just go into more, once you've downloaded that connection file, you're able to actually add it, and you're able to actually choose it as well. So it should be on the list once you've actually downloaded it, and it should import in there, and then you can add it in. Now that we've talked a little bit about adding those kinds of things, we'll move on to how to actually manage your records. But before I do that, I need to go back to what I was talking about before the question, and actually add some records in the library to be able to start manipulating and managing. So I'm just going to do a quick little search. I'm going to search for penguins in University of Newcastle, and that hasn't worked because I'm actually still in the author field. So there's not going to be any author called penguin. So if I go author/title/subject, it's going to search for in some wider fields that are more likely to get me a match. And I will search that. We're searching the remote library, and that's found 11 records, and they've come in there. So I've retrieved some records, but they're still not actually in my EndNote library. What I need to do is copy them over. So what I do is I just click on there and click on Shift, and I'm able to select multiple at a time. And then there's a copy to local library button up the top, and that will copy those. And then when I go back to my library, I can see in that view that they have actually gone through. So be wary when you're actually importing references from databases and from other catalogues in online search mode, because sometimes there's errors in there, and you need to actually go in and double check your citations in there as well, and just make sure that all of the information in there is correct. So if we click on one of those, you can go in and you can see all of the information in there has been pre-filled from the database. All of that's come through. If I close that, there's actually an option to preview how the citation's going to look as well. So if we go preview there, we can see that's looking pretty good for APA. So it's got our author and their initial, publication year, the title of the book, and it's got our publisher as well. So just always make sure that you go in and double check things, and then you're able to just ensure that it's going to work properly when you go to use your citations with Cite While You Write. Okay. So now that I've actually got some in here, I'm going to try and add some groups, which is one way that you can actually organize your references. So I'm going to go in, and in this groups menu, you've got the option to create a group, and I can call that whatever I want. So I'm going to call it penguins, because all of this is the information that I need for my assignment on penguins. And I'll just select these. And then what I can do is drag those into that group that I've created. So when you're in your My Library, you can sort of move through the different parts of your My Library. So we're in the All References part at the moment. You can look at references that you've copied, references that you've recently added, as well as looking specifically at groups that you've created to organize your references. And one of the ways that groups is really handy is because you'll be using the one EndNote library for multiple projects. And that's what we always recommend that you do. If you have multiple EndNote libraries, that's going to confuse Microsoft Word when you're using Cite While You Write, and it won't know which EndNote library it's trying to connect to. So best practice is use the one EndNote library for all of your projects, and then just make sure that you use things like your groups to organize the citations that you have in there. Okay. So now we've talked a little bit about the very basics of sort of setting up your library, starting to add things, starting to manage your citations. We're going to talk now about how to actually use Cite While You Write. So I'll share a Word document that I've created, and we can start to add some citations to that. So I've started to type a paragraph here, and when you are in Microsoft Word, there is a tab for EndNote if you've actually installed EndNote. So for me, it's here, it's EndNote X9 up the top towards the right of your ribbon there. So when you actually want to add a citation, you put your cursor in the place in your paragraph that you want to add your citation, and then you just go to the Insert Citation shortcut there. Now you can search within your library to find a specific citation. You could search by a specific author to bring it up straight away if you want, if you've got a specific citation in mind. Now I want to add in this one here, and I'll just go Insert. So that's added in my citation. And then if I decide that I want to add in another one, I do the same thing again, put my cursor where I want to add it, go to my Insert Citation, and then add in the one that I want to add from the EndNote library. Now you can change your citations, and if you do that, make sure that you don't just delete text in your citations like you would if you were adding, just editing and writing in Word. You need to actually go into the Edit and Manage Citations option if you want to change, delete, or add anything and fix up your citations. So we'll go into Edit and Manage Citations. And you can see there it's got both listed that I've got in the document so far. So if I wanted to remove, whoops, I've just accidentally stopped sharing. I'll just go back just a moment. Okay, so there's my site while you're right. All right. So if I want to actually remove that top reference, I can just go into the edit reference drop-down menu and then just go remove. And then that's removed from my document. If I want to add something like a page number, instead of putting my cursor within the brackets and typing it in, which we don't want to do because that's going to corrupt our field codes and muck up our citations, what we do is we go into edit and manage citations. We can see this from the list, and we can see the fields here that we can add to. So I want to add in that I'm talking about page 55. So I just add in the number of the page there, and then we go OK. And then that adds that into your document. And you would have noticed as well that as I add citations in there, it automatically formats a bibliography. So as I add citations, it's going to add those into the document so that I don't need to worry about typing that in manually, which is fantastic. It can save you a lot of time. So as long as you've done the work to get your citations correct and checked that they're correct when you've actually inputted that data into EndNote itself, it can save you a bit of time when you're actually starting to write your assignment. Okay. So what we might do now is just go back to our PowerPoint, and I'll just reiterate the different ways that you can actually ask us for help if you need to. So sometimes you might find yourself a little bit stuck, and we have a number of different ways that you can actually contact us. If you're feeling a little bit like this, if you're feeling a little bit like a cat stuck up a tree, you can contact us through the week and the weekend. There's always somebody monitoring library chat during business hours. You can book an appointment with a librarian, such as myself or one of the other librarians. We can give you a little bit of guidance with things like referencing and finding sources for your assignments. We can, show you how to use the resources that we have available to you to the best of your advantage. We have lots more webinars coming up. So every week we have a new webinar. We have plenty of online guides for you to access as well. And yeah, we're always here if you need us. No question is too silly. So please reach out if you find that you need some assistance. The other thing that I'll mention as well in terms of help, there's many other support services available to you at the university. So we have the lovely learning advisors at Academic Learning Support who are available to give you free writing and numeracy advice. So if you have a question which is more to do with how do I actually write my essay, how do I structure it? I don't know what paraphrasing is. Please help me with that. They're the perfect people to talk to about those kinds of questions. Okay, so I guess that's pretty much all I had to go through at the moment. Does anybody have any questions now that we've dealt with the bulk of the content for today?
There was a few people saying they weren't sure how to get APA 7 in their EndNote. Only APA 6 was showing.
Okay, no worries. That's all right. We can find that. So if we just go through. So if you need to install additional referencing output styles, you can download individual styles. And again, that's something that you would go to the EndNote website for. So I'll just share that information in the chat so you're able to find it if you need to. So basically, when you're in there, if you just go through to the EndNote website, again, it's similar to when you're installing the connection files as well. You can use the style finder option to choose what style you're after. So for example, if we're after APA 7, and you can choose, for example, if you're not sure what the name of the style you're looking for is, but you know you want a specific kind of style, so you're looking for a footnoted style or something, you can use the drop-down menu and it will bring you up some results that way. But if we know we're searching for a specific style, we can just put in the keyword and then we can just do search there. And that's brought up 3 results here. So we have a number of different APA 7 styles here. So you just choose the one that you want and you download it. And again, you're able to input that into your EndNote as well once you actually open that up and transfer it through to your EndNote. Okay, any other questions?
There was a question saying if I download a citation in EndNote form, how do I add it into my EndNote?
Okay. So if we go in here.
Just while you're doing that, Gemma, Jenny raised a good point in the chat as well. So the support that we offer at the library for EndNote, generally speaking, if you're an undergraduate, you would come through the book librarian system if you needed support. If you're a postgraduate in research, the best way for you to get support is to contact your research support librarian so they can make an appointment with you via Zoom or face-to-face when the world goes back to normal.
Yeah.
Just because there's different levels of usage of EndNote. So the researchers need a kind of higher level of support, whereas when you're starting out, we can help that.
Exactly. So like the webinar for today was more kind of like a sort of a basics for people who haven't done it before, but there is an advanced EndNote webinar coming up. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Ben. That's great. So if you're actually wanting to add in a style, if you go into references, it's in edit. And if you go into output styles, and you just go into new style, and that's going to pop that in there. So it's just, yeah, in that menu there. And once you've actually added it in, it should come up in your output styles list. So you can see there in the output styles list, it's got the ones which are actually already in there. But once you add a new one in, it'll appear in that list and then you can choose it and pop it in and start using it. Okay, were there any other questions at the moment?
There's no others in at the moment.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we might leave it there for today. If anybody's got any other questions, again, you can always contact us in the library. We've got plenty of ways that you can contact us. And thanks so much for your attention, guys. Oh, actually, before I forget, we did have a poll as well for you guys to complete just before we finish up. Okay, thanks very much, everyone. Yeah, again, if you find that you'd like a bit more one-on-one help, again, for undergrads, Book a Librarian is great. For our postgrad and higher degree research, your liaison librarian's probably the best person to contact. Okay. If you want to be notified about upcoming EndNote sessions, the upcoming advanced one, on our library homepage, there's a link to library classes. That's where you can actually go in and register for our upcoming webinars. And yes, so I think Zoe's just popped a link in there. Okay. All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks, Gemma. Thanks, everyone.